Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. I hope you all are doing really well. Thought we'd sit down and have a talk about Everton's first pre-season fixture that obviously took place on Saturday afternoon. Everton 3-0 victors over Accrington Stanley at USM Finch Farm. I don't actually think it's being classed as a pre-season game, more of just a sort of warm-up fixture after the first week of training. Obviously we didn't know anything about it. If it wasn't for Accrington Stanley tweeting out on Saturday night that they'd lost 3-0 to Everton at Finch Farm and Rafa Benitez's side had been the victors, then we wouldn't know that this game had even happened. To be honest with you, we haven't watched it, of course, because nobody watched it. There has been highlights put out on Everton's website and Everton's YouTube channel that are about 1 minute and 20 seconds long or something like that, and showcase all of the goals scored on Saturday. We get to see players like Jean-Philippe Gbamin in action, looking very big and strong, albeit for, only from the couple of minutes that we've seen. He looked good. James Rodriguez back in action in the new Everton kit as well, looking absolutely brilliant, wearing the number 10 shirt as well. I had somebody in the comments asking me about the shirt numbers and what they mean. I think Alex Iwobi was wearing number 7, and they were sort of confused as to whether that means or doesn't mean that Richarlison will be leaving in the summer. Just for a little bit of context in regards to that, both James Rodriguez and Gylfi Sigurdsson wore the number 10 shirt on Saturday. I think James played the first half in it and Gylfi Sigurdsson played the second half in it. So the shirt numbers mean absolutely nothing. Any player's given any shirt number because it's just a warm-up game, isn't it? It's just a pre-season game. So the actual confirmed numbers for the Premier League season will be confirmed at a later date. But it was good to see James Rodriguez back at Finch Farm in action. It was good to see Jean-Philippe Gbamin back in Finch Farm, back in action at Finch Farm, and various other players as well who of course returned to pre-season training with Everton last week. Moise Kean was present on the day but wasn't actually featured in the game. He just returned to Finch Farm, I believe, on Saturday because he was part of a phased return due to COVID. So obviously he hadn't had the first week's worth of training that the other players had, and therefore he obviously wasn't involved in the game, but he was back at USM Finch Farm, and I would assume that he will have had this week, meaning obviously yesterday and today, as training days, and hopefully he'll be a part of the squad going into the Florida Cup in the next couple of weeks as well. But it was our first pre-season fixture, obviously prior to the Florida Cup. We know that Everton will go away to Florida within the next couple of weeks or so to play in that competition. There would probably be another pre-season friendly in the mix somewhere in and around then, whether it'll be after or before. I would probably assume after now. I doubt they'll have another game before that. And then of course we play Manchester United the week before the Premier League season starts in our final pre-season game. But this was the first Rafael Benitez's first game in charge of Everton Football Club. Clean sheet, 3 goals, 3 points. Can't really ask for more, can you really? But no, look, in all seriousness, obviously you can't really look at the game and take too much from it. It was a pre-season friendly at the start of at the end of the first week of training against the team that obviously had a lot less quality. There's a lot less quality in Accrington Stanley's team than there was in Everton's team, even in that side that wasn't obviously a full strength Everton side that was put out on Saturday. It was good to see some of the youngsters playing in there. Tom Cannon, Lewis Gibson, I think Lewis Dobson played as well. Obviously Anthony Gordon in there as well. A couple of them getting on the score sheet, which was fantastic to see. And obviously great to see them getting involved in the first team. And in the little videos that Everton have been posting on YouTube over the last couple of weeks or so, little training videos, you're seeing more and more of the younger lads getting involved in first team training and actually holding their weight. They're not just there sort of having a little bit of a kick about and getting completely overrun by the senior players. They're actually being able to hold their own in training and mix it with those senior players. So who knows what outlook Rafael Benitez will have on this Everton squad next season. Maybe he'll look at some of these younger players and think, actually, do you know what? As opposed to just saying, I don't want to trust youth, I don't want to give them a chance. Maybe you'll look at an Anthony Gordon and think, yeah, do you know what? You can be a part of our squad next season. Maybe you'll look at I don't know, a Lewis Gibson, or somebody like that and think, actually, do you know what? I want you in and around the first team next season. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll loan those players out, and again, that wouldn't necessarily be the worst decision, but it's good to see them getting involved in first team training and actually being able to hold their own as well. But yeah, like I said, we haven't obviously seen much of the game. I think if it would have been a 0-0 draw, I think a lot of us would have been disappointed that we'd managed to draw 0-0 with Accrington Stanley at USM Finch Farm. No disrespect to Accrington Stanley, but also Baby wouldn't have probably got any highlights whatsoever, because again, the only highlights we seem to have gotten on Everton's YouTube channel was the highlights of the goals. So, but look, you know, again, like you said, you take it on face value, you take it for what it is. It's a warm-up game at the end of a pre-season. It's an Everton game, so we want Everton to win. Would it have been massively disheartening if we didn't? No, but it's good to see players like Jean-Philippe Gbamin, who of course have struggled throughout their Everton career to get any sort of fitness and any sort of consistency, getting out there and looking like a proper, you know, midfield player, and looking like a proper, you know, athlete. Obviously, again, what's happened to Jean-Philippe Gbamin since he signed for Everton Football Club is nothing short of, you know, upsetting, really, isn't it? And devastating for him as a player, and certainly for us as fans to see him go through that. And again, I know, taking it on face value with a pinch of salt with the opponents and stuff, but it was just great to see him in the middle of the park and sort of controlling the ball and picking the ball up. And even in the various different training videos we've seen over the last couple of weeks or so, you're seeing Jean-Philippe Gbamin an awful lot in them. He's getting involved an awful lot. He's picking the ball up. There's one scene in one of the videos where James Rodriguez tries to chip the ball over him, and he just chests it and gets it down and just completely moves away with it. And you can really see when you're looking at him, you know, it's easy to get confused about, you know, physicality and height, and, you know, a lot of what we've seen from or surrounding Jean-Philippe Gbamin over the last, you know, couple of years or so has been very individual. It's been him training on his own. It's been him training at Finch Farm on his own. It's been him, you know, obviously working in the gym on his own. And yes, he's looked like a big physical, you know, lad in those videos as well. But when you actually see him on the training pitch, training with his teammates, and you see him next to James Rodriguez, he looks like an absolute physical presence. And if we can get Jean-Philippe Gbamin to any sort of consistent fitness level going forward, then I think we've got an absolutely fantastic midfielder on our hands. He's confident, he was moving his body well, he was using his muscle, he was using his strength, and he was doing it really well, albeit it was only in the couple of minutes that we've seen so far. And I get that Everton are only wanting to show us bits and bobs at the moment, but those bits and bobs that we've seen, he's looked very, very strong. But anyway, let's get into the game. Like I said, the game did take place at USM Finch Farm on Saturday. Everton wore the new home kit for the first time. Players like James Rodriguez were photographed in the new kit. Ben Godfrey photographed in the new kit as well. And Rafa Benitez was full suited and booted, taking it seriously. Could have easily just kept his shorts and his tacky top on, but he wasn't. He wanted to show his professionalism. He wanted to show his respect to the opponent, and he put his full suit on, even though it was a little bit hot at Finch Farm, so he's probably sweating. And Everton stepped out, and in the first half went 1-0 up thanks to a goal from Tom Cannon. A little bit of, you know, mumbling about. I think Fabian Delph had the ball at one point, ended up falling over. Shock horror. Alex Iwobi was playing in the sort of number 10 role, even though James Rodriguez was wearing in the number 10. Alex Iwobi was playing in the number 10 role, picking the ball up where we want him to pick the ball up effectively. And I think one thing we can take from Rafa Benitez coming in, or one real big positive we can take from Rafa Benitez coming in, is he typically does play a formation that allows a number 10. Now, whether that means that'll be Alex Iwobi playing in there, or whether that means it'll be James Rodriguez or Gylfi Sigurdsson, at least we know that there's three players there that will have an opportunity to play in their preferred position. Pardon the Alex Iwobi thing there, but no, it's true, because for a lot of last season we saw James Rodriguez playing off the right hand side, and for as good as he was there, and for as, you know, able as he was to adapt because of how good of a footballer he is, let's be honest, there was times last season when James Rodriguez was playing on, you know, the right wing or the right of midfield, and you were sort of looking at it thinking, how good would you be in a number 10 role with players around you that can run, i.e. a right winger that can get down the wing and open the space for you, a left winger that can do the same, a striker that's running in behind, a couple of midfielders that are getting past you. Imagine if James Rodriguez was in a situation where he didn't really need to move because he had 4 or 5 runners around him that were creating space for him, and he just had to pick those world-class balls out, which we know he can do in his sleep with his eyes closed. So hopefully Rafa Benitez coming in and adopting this. I know it's a 4-2-3-1 formation at times. Hopefully with the ability of having a number 10 in there, we can sort of utilise the likes of James Rodriguez a lot more, and Gylfi Sigurdsson if he does stay a lot more, and Alex Iwobi, who has not been shy of admitting before that he hasn't been played in his preferred position during his time at Everton so far, and hopefully Alex Iwobi has that conversation with Rafael Benitez, and maybe he's already had that conversation with Rafael Benitez, and that's why we saw him on Saturday sort of in and around that number 10 sort of role. But anyway, Everton go 1-0 up. The ball falls to Tom Cannon in the opposition's box. He has one shot at it, it's saved, and it bounces back at him, and he gets his second and he puts it into the back of the net. Brilliant for Tom Cannon, of course, who had a fantastic season last season for Everton's under 23s, moved up into the 23s after again a very successful season in the 18s, and looked absolutely brilliant. Scored some wonderful goals last season. Tom Cannon, wonderful goals. Very confident young player. Is he ready for first team action? Look, let's not get ahead of ourselves. He scored in a friendly against Accrington Stanley at the end of the first week of pre-season, so let's not get too excited about it, but he certainly looks like a player to keep our eyes on for the future. Confident, good goal scorer, gets in the right areas. Again, had one chance at it, didn't score it, so he went again, got himself back up. And, obviously absolutely made up for Tom Cannon to get that goal, because as much as it's just a goal in a pre-season friendly against, or a warm-up game against Accrington Stanley at USM Finch Farm, it's still a goal for Everton's senior team. It's still a goal that would have massively impressed Rafael Benitez. Let's not get this twisted. This isn't a Carlo Ancelotti pre-season where Tom Cannon might have scored and gone, okay, I've scored and I'm happy about it, but there's not a chance I'm getting an opportunity under this fella, because he's already sent the likes of Gabaman and Branthwaite out on loan, and he's already explained that he didn't, he wasn't a massive fan of Moise Keane, and there's all these younger players that were within the squad that are probably ahead of me in the pecking order that won't get an opportunity because this fella Carlo Ancelotti doesn't want to give it. That's not the situation now. Tom Cannon will be looking at it thinking, well, this is my chance, as well as Lewis Gibson, as well as Anthony Gordon and various other young players. This is my chance to impress the new manager. This is my chance for the new manager to look at and go, actually, do you know what, that lad's got a bit of talent, so maybe we'll be involved in the matchday squad going forward. Maybe we'll get his opportunity in the Premier League. Maybe not Tom Cannon, because again, he's not long stepped into the under 23s, and it will be a gigantic step up, but certainly for the likes of maybe a Lewis Gibson or a Reece Welsh or an Anthony Gordon. But again, Tom Cannon would have wanted to impress as much as those other lads as well, and he certainly did that in the first half with a goal. So Everton go in 1-0 at half time. Good start to the game again. Good physicality. Hammers involved, wearing the number 10 shirt and picking some passes out left, right and centre. You've got Gabaman, who again was present in the second half. We then go into the second half, and the second goal comes. Gylfi Sigurdsson this time, who again wearing the number 10 shirt, swings in a fantastic ball to the back post, and it's Lewis Gibson who gets on the end of it, and a brilliant ball, to be fair, by Gylfi Sigurdsson. There's one thing you can't really deny, and that's that Gylfi Sigurdsson can't half put a cross into the box. I understand people will say, Cam, we were playing Accrington Stanley, what are you talking about? But it was a dead ball situation. It was a free kick from a wide area, left wide area. He plays the ball into the box, brilliant ball, and Lewis Gibson at the back post gets on the end of it with a sliding finish. And again, same as a conversation as the Tom Cannon conversation. Absolutely brilliant for Lewis Gibson to get on the score sheet, and brilliant for Lewis Gibson to, again, to give Rafael Benitez something to think about, something to look at. Rafael Benitez very clearly was taking this game seriously, not just because of the fact that he dressed in a suit and, the fact that he's a top professional, but this was his first real opportunity to have a look at a lot of this Everton squad. In a match day scenario, in a match day situation. It's all well and good looking at the squad, looking at the younger players in training and how they're mixing in different drills and different passing drills, etc. But it's much different having a look at them in a game, in a match day scenario, and even forgetting the opponent and the level of the opponent. It's about the movement of the players. It's about where the players are in free kicks and corners, and where they position themselves and how they get in behind in their runs, and if they're making space, and if they're staying onside, and if they're concentrating throughout the entire game. And Rafa Benitez would have learnt a lot about this Everton squad during that game on Saturday, and that's what it was about. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about showing us loads of highlights of James Rodriguez doing loads of fancy flicks. It was about Rafael Benitez for the first time being able to learn an awful lot about this squad and these group of players, because obviously we haven't got a full squad. Moise Keane wasn't involved because he hadn't returned to training yet. He was at Finch Farm, but he hadn't been training with the club because it was part of a phased return due to COVID, which is something that every club will go through. Likes of Alan, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Bernard, all again weren't involved because of the same reasons as Moise Kean. I'm sure Alan, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Moise Kean, Bernard, etc. will be returning to USM Finch Farm within the next couple of days or so, maybe next week. And then obviously you've got the international lads, Richarlison, Yerry Mina, Jordan Pickford, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who probably won't return to the squad for a couple of weeks yet. Obviously we know Jordan Pickford and Dominic Calvert-Lewin will go away on holiday after, the Euros. Richarlison's going to the Olympics with Brazil, and I'm sure Yerry Mina will meet up with the squad for the Florida Cup in some way, shape or form, whether that's meeting up with the squad whilst they're in Florida, or whether that's meeting up with the squad just before they travel. But again, he's probably not due back at Finch Farm just yet either. So this was a really good chance for the young lads, your likes of your Tom Cannon, your Lewis Gibsons, your Anthony Gordons, to really sort of show that they can get in there and they can mix it up, and in a match day scenario they can be of a an advantage to Everton Football Club. And similar with Jean-Philippe Gbamin as well. I'm sure Jean-Philippe Gbamin will be involved an awful lot more in pre-season, considering, obviously we brought him in to replace Idrissa Gana again. Injuries are the thing that have hindered his Everton career, nothing other than that. But this was a big chance for the likes of Jean-Philippe Gbamin, Tom Cannon, Lewis Gibson, etc. to get in there and to show Rafael Benitez what they're about before your likes of your Doucouré and your Alan come back in and they're starting, and maybe Gbamin takes a step back out, or your Bernard comes back in and he's taking the place of a younger player, and obviously then Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, etc. So it was a big opportunity for a lot of these players to impress Rafael Benitez, and I do think they did. Anyway, the second goal goes in, of course, like I said, Gylfi Sigurdsson swings a good ball in, and it is Lewis Gibson on the back post who finishes nicely. We then fast forward a few minutes later, about 10 or 15 minutes later, and Jean-Philippe Gbamin's got the ball in the midfield in his own half, takes it down well, and plays an unbelievable through ball through to Anthony Gordon, who runs onto it, takes a good couple of touches, gets in the box and slots it past the goalkeeper. Anthony Gordon actually did tweet out yesterday a picture of himself saying finally, with a laughing emoji and a goal. I think it was his first senior goal for Everton Football Club. And like I said about Tom Cannon, Anthony Gordon will certainly take that. And again, really good turn of pace by Anthony Gordon, showing that he looked fit, he looked physical, he looked demanding, and it'll definitely be of impress. And he'll definitely will have impressed Rafael Benitez with that finish, as will have Jean-Philippe Gbamin with that ball. An absolutely brilliant takedown and a fantastic ball to set up Anthony Gordon to score the third goal. And that was it for the game. That was it for the highlights anyway. We didn't get to see much else, did we? We only got to see the goals. But again, a brilliant ball by Jean-Philippe Gbamin through to Anthony Gordon to slot the third. Really good ball in by Gylfi Sigurdsson for Lewis Gibson's goal, and Tom Cannon with a couple of opportunities and getting the ball in the back of the net, which would have seriously impressed the manager. And that was how Everton's first pre-season game did go. I know the Everton probably aren't classing it as a pre-season game. Obviously, we weren't able to watch it. We didn't know anything about it, did we? Let's be honest, until Accrington Stanley tweeted out that they'd lost to Everton, and then Everton tweeted out a report and then some highlights a little bit later on. So I do believe that Everton had treated it as sort of like a warm-up practice game, nothing too serious. But obviously, Rafael Benitez was treating it maybe a little bit more serious than what we would have first thought. He was in a suit, and some might say, oh yeah, that doesn't mean anything, Cam, but it does. Because if this was just a practice game at USM Finch Farm, it didn't really mean anything and wasn't really worth reporting on, then, the players would have probably wore the training gear. They didn't. They wore the first kit for the first time. Rafael Benitez has probably gone, no, do you know what? I'll probably just stay in me shorts and on me trackie then, and have me, me whistle around me because it's just a training game. But he didn't. He went out. He got, he had a suit on, showing his professionalism and showing that probably the right message to the group of players, which is this might only be a practice match at the end of your first week, but this Accrington Stanley side had been in training for a week prior to that, so they'd had an extra week worth of training, and we want to take this as serious as possible. And he'd have probably fed that message to every player that had played, certainly the younger players, as to this is your opportunity to impress. Because let's be honest, when we go to Florida Cup, you're going to have James Rodriguez, you're probably going to have Bernard in there, Yerry Mina, and he'll probably be back for the Florida Cup. I'd highly doubt that Jordan Pickford and Calvert-Lewin will be back. Who knows? Maybe they will, but I wouldn't think they would be. And obviously Richarlison won't be there, but you'll still have a lot of big names there. Moise Kean, obviously Alex Iwobi, Delph, etc., Gomez, Sigurdsson. So are the likes of Lewis Gibson and Tom Cannon going to get an opportunity? Hopefully they do. But if they were to turn up on Saturday and not really perform and not really show Rafael Benitez anything that he wasn't impressed by, then he probably wouldn't be in their plans. But they've come in, they've stepped up, and they've done well. And again, 3 goals from 3 young players, 3 good finishes as well. And Anthony Gordon certainly won that. I think we can all keep an eye on this summer, whether he's loaned out or not. I think he's certainly a one of point. Was seen in deep conversation with James Rodriguez in one of the training videos released yesterday. And, again, really good goal, really good turn of pace, looks fit, looks ready, looks prepared. And hopefully we see Anthony Gordon with a lot more opportunities over the next coming weeks and months. So there you go. That is how Everton's first pre-season or practice match, whatever you want to call it, ended. It ended in a 3-0 victory for Rafael Benitez's Blues. Rafael Benitez undefeated as Everton manager, 3 goals, clean sheet. What can you say? What can you say? You can't ask for much more than that, can you? And obviously we'll go in now, next couple of weeks of training, and get the likes of Moise Kean, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Alain Bernard all back in the mix. Hopefully bring in a couple of new players as well prior to going over to Florida. Whether we will or not, I don't know, but hopefully we do. And then obviously we travel over to Florida in a couple of weeks' time to play in the Florida Cup. But good start. Can't ask for much more than that. Not really much more to say on the game, to be honest with you, because we don't really know what really happened other than the 3 goals. But those lads that went out there on Saturday would have certainly impressed the manager. And it was amazing to see the likes of James Rodriguez and Jean-Philippe Gbamin back in Everton shirts once again. So there you go. Let's get into the comments then before we finish up. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. We will be back a little bit later on today, probably in another couple of hours, talking about Moise Kean and his future at Everton Football Club. So don't forget to subscribe if you are new. Everton Blues says, hi Cam, hi mate, how you doing? Chandler says, what's happening, Cam? I may be getting my tattoo. I want to get the tower with those ring things on the badge around the tower, probably going to be in the inside of my leg, just above my ankle. It is right, mate, it is right, definitely do it. I've got many tattoos, as I'm sure if you've been around the channel for a while, you'll know that I've got many tattoos. I have actually got Nil Satis Nizzy Optimum across my collarbone area there. First tattoo I ever got, day after my 18th birthday. Absolutely killed, but absolutely love it. Dylan says, Cam, do you know what formation Rafa played in the friendly? Somebody else asked me that in the comments as well. Dan Boy says, Cam, any idea which formation he played? I don't, unfortunately. I know Rafa Benitez has played a 4-2-3-1 formation in the past, and I know that he has been a fan of said formation, and I understand that there was certainly parts of that training video where Alex Iwobi looked to be adopting that number 10 role, or that role behind the striker, but there wasn't an awful lot to see and to gauge as to know what formation Everton did play, and from what I know, it wasn't mentioned in the report, and I haven't heard anything otherwise, so unfortunately I don't know, but a winning formation. Stephen says, come on you Blues, Cam, tell me how much Pickford done our beloved club proud. Yeah, spot on, mate. We talked about Jordan Pickford yesterday in the live stream, and how proud that we all are of Jordan Pickford, and just how amazing it is to see that other fans and other members of the media are actually starting to see now, or hopefully starting to see, that Jordan Pickford is a really, really top level keeper. We've known this as Evertonians for a long time, certainly for the last 4 or 5 months or so. He was Everton's best player in the remaining 3 or 4 months of the season, so we've known how good Jordan Pickford is, but it's nice to see that other people are starting to clock onto that now. And for me, he's played at the tournament, he's been absolutely robbed of it, and yeah, I think he was absolutely fantastic, and again, massively proud of Jordan. Stephen says, James has to stay. Hopefully, mate. Danboy says, James in the 10 with Keane and Richie either side of him and DCL ahead. Yes, please. Well, again, it gives you options, doesn't it? Like I said, we're going to talk about Moise Kean in the next couple of hours or so, and talk about the potential of him staying at the football club. I think one thing I would say is, if Moise Kean does stay at the football club, then I would be really, really interesting to see what Everton do and how Everton approach finances, because obviously FFP is still very much there hanging over our heads, and we are still very much within touching distance of unfortunately breaking that, and we haven't really got much wriggle room with FFP. And I think the club and a lot of fans were hoping on the fact that Moise Kean may leave the club this summer for a considerable amount of money, and that would give us a little bit of leeway with FFP. But if he doesn't leave, and if he is to stay, then how do we get that leeway? How are we going to bring in a right back, a right winger, centre midfielder, centre back, if Moise Kean, stays at the football club. Obviously, we won't need to bring in a backup striker, but I still don't think there's still 3-4 areas that we need to, assess and improve on immediately. And I really think we'll struggle to do that without selling either Moise Kean or somebody else within the squad that will bring in a considerable amount of money. So, again, it'll be really, really interesting, and that's all part of the Moise Kean discussion that we're going to have a little bit later on. Stephen says he's Mario Balotelli in disguise. I've just actually watched a little video on Mario Balotelli. Funny you should bring him up. I've just watched a Mario Balotelli video about 10 or 15 minutes ago. His career and him as a footballer and where he is now. He's a top footballer, Mario Balotelli, wasn't he? A top footballer. Dan Boy says, Stephen, mate, I'm so proud of JP. He's a credit to our club. I hope he stays for a decade. Yeah, listen, hopefully John-Philippe Gbamin can regain that fitness and can sort of can stay at a consistent level of fitness over the next couple of weeks and leading into next season. Hopefully we see a lot more of him than what we've seen of him already, because he's a big physical, midfield player, very good on the ball. Again, we saw his assist for Anthony Gordon's goal, which was a fantastic assist as well, and hopefully we see a lot more of that. Stephen says, yes, Danboy, well said. Danboy says, Bigford, Dumfries, Mina, Godfrey, Dean, Alan, Decore, Keane, James, Richie and DCL equals fire. Chris says, I hope you're all well. I'm not too bad, Chris. What's happening? Eugene says, Everton transfers. We've been linked again this morning with Denzel Dumfries. Spoke about him yesterday on the episode of In Other News. Apparently, according to Gazzetta dello Sport, I believe, Everton are heavily interested in Denzel Dumfries. PSV are wanting 20 million euro, I believe. And Rafa Benitez is said to apparently be wanting to sit down with the player to try and convince him to join Everton. So, again, not the most reliable of sources. Gazzetta dello Sport have linked Everton with a lot of players over the last 12 or 18 months or so that haven't come to fruition, but hopefully the Denzel Dumfries one does come to fruition. Chris says, Manis Mampala is a trialist for my local town, Carlisle, and notices you to play for Everton under 23s and under 18s. I was wondering if you Everton fans could give me your thoughts on him. How was he for you lot? Again, he probably wasn't good enough for Everton. Stephen says he was rubbish. I don't think he was rubbish. He just probably wasn't good enough for Everton. He just probably wasn't at that level. I think for Carlisle, he'll do a good job. I do think he'll do a good job. I think he's a decent footballer. He's not at the level of a player that's wanting to, break into a Premier League side. But Carlisle aren't that team either, so hopefully he'll do well for you, Chris. Danboy says, Cam, any idea which formation they play? No, we said that. Danboy says, Gordon could be useful in August with Richie going to the Olympics. Well, you're spot on, mate. You're spot on. And it's these things that we have to talk about, isn't it? Because you look at, you look at the likes of an Anthony Gordon, and you look at certainly FFP, which we've just spoken about, and if Moise Kean isn't to leave Everton, which is a possibility, is it a possibility that he will leave? Of course it is. Of course it is. Is it a possibility that he'll stay? I think that is now. Obviously we heard the rumours last week that, Fabrizio Romano was coming out with, saying that Rafael Benitez doesn't want to allow Moise Kean to leave on loan. He'll only allow him to leave on a permanent deal. And if Moise Kean doesn't leave, and Everton have to target a right back because that's more of a priority, and we then can't go out and bring in a left winger or a right winger or whatever, then maybe, Anthony Gordon, certainly in those first couple of weeks of the season, and where we'll be missing Richarlison, maybe he'll be of an impactful, a player, and a player that Rafael Benitez looks at and goes, actually, do you know what, we could do with you. And maybe Anthony Gordon will step in those first couple of games and really show his talent, and then will be a member of the Everton team going forward. Who knows? Eugene said Everton tip to contact 25-year-old target representatives this week. Is that Dumfries? Maybe, I don't know. Chris says I'm 50-50 on pre-season. I don't take it seriously, but same time, I still go to watch my team if I can. Yeah, look, we beat Accrington Stanley 3-0 in a game at USM Finch Farm, a practice game. It's not really something to be massively excited about, but it's still the first win, it's still the first game, and you've got to win. If we're playing a game of football, I want Everton to win every game of football, whether we're playing Accrington Stanley, whether we're playing Liverpool, whether we're playing Arsenal, or whether we're playing Dave's under-12s. I want Everton to win every single game of football, and this one included. Stephen says, Hammers. Danboy says, great video, Cam, cheers, thank you very much. Eugene says, when Everton and Hummel expect to release their third kit? It was Liverpool Echo reported today that they expect to release the kit at the end of July, so look out for that one. Probably in and around, I would guess, in and around the Florida Cup. Again, I don't know anything that nobody else knows, but that's what I would guess. Danway says Gordon and Hammers discussing their loadouts on COD. Danway says third kit end of July. I read, yeah, it was in the Echo. Stephen says Cam is a legend. Mighty Blues rule. Nice one, mate. Dan says Dan James on loan, mate, bit of pace off the bench. I'd take him. A lot of Evertonians wouldn't. I think on loan it's very risk-free, and I think he'd be a great player to bring off the bench. John says not sure where we are in terms of financials compared to the top 6. Do you know that will count in the end? Yeah, we're in terms of FFP. As much as people may think it's been relaxed, and it probably has to an extent, we're still not in the greatest position. Put it this way, if Everton are wanting to bring in a right back, a right winger, a left winger, another centre midfielder, maybe another centre back, we're going to need to sell. And if it's not Moise Keane, I fear that it's going to be somebody else. Unless they find some other way around it, and the only ways around that are to just go, bollocks to FFP, we're spending what we want and you can fine us, or to do it in some other, sort of intricate and clever way, and I really don't know how the club would do that. Chris says, thanks for giving me your thoughts on him. He may be reunited with Morgan Feeney, so maybe that'll be a good chemistry for Carlisle. Yeah, spot on. Stephen says Carlisle to win the league. Chris also says Carlisle gaffer likes young players and developing them, so I'd take him. I hope so, Stephen. And Tom says, would you say, Cam, we need another centre half? It depends, mate. It depends on what the club decide on Yerry Mina. The club need to make a decision on Yerry Mina this season. Ultimately, they need to decide this summer whether to sell him or whether to give him a new contract, because he's out of contract next summer and he'd walk on a free, of course. So they need to either decide, right, okay, this is a player that we want them to keep, and I think Yerry Mina is personally one of, if not Everton's best centre-halves, so I'd like to keep him. But then you look at his injury record, you look at his age, and you think if the club can maybe make 15-20 million on him, maybe they'd take that, considering the financial situation that we're in. Maybe they won't, we don't know. But it all depends for me on Yerry Mina's future. And as well, if the club were to receive a bid for somebody like a Mason Holgate, they may go, okay, we'll move him on because, maybe we don't deem him good enough and we've received a bid. But again, it's all about teams coming in for these players, isn't it? And Newton says, I met Speedo Mick yesterday in Ballybuffy in Ireland. Is right, mate. Is right. Anyway, I'm going to have to go. If you have enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button. Good first win for Everton. Doesn't really mean much, but it's good to get a win, isn't it? And it was good to see the young players out there and impress. And certainly the likes of Tom Cannon, Lewis Gibson and Anthony Gordon getting on the score sheet. And great to see Jean-Philippe Gabamon and James Rodriguez back in blue as well. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. We'll be back a little bit later on talking about Moise Keane, so don't forget to join us for that one. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. John says, pre-season results never guarantee good results in the league. Same as practice and penalties. Doesn't mean you will win a penalty shootout. Yeah, spot on it. There's no guarantee, but we play the game, so it's good that we won. And Sol says, what's happening, Cam? Hope you well, mate. I'm good, mate. I'm good. Hope you are well yourself. John says, why do City and Liverpool not have FFP issues? Because their income, from what I gather anyway, it's something to do with because their income is a lot more than Everton's income because of sponsorships and global and this, that and the other. And City did have issues with FFP and things like that. They just absolutely broke every rule and then went, come on, challenge us, we'll take you to court. And they employed the best lawyers and they were sound with it. And maybe Everton will adopt that same situation, maybe they won't. But I'm not 100% clued on FFP and stuff like that, so we're looking to bring somebody onto the channel in the next couple of weeks or so who can really explain that sort of side of things, because I'm not going to lie, I personally don't know an awful lot about it. Anyway, big thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new. We'll see you later on today with another live stream, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.